Money doesn't just come from one place. It drips, trickles, flows, and floods into our lives in different ways. Welcome to Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood, a podcast that explores the power of multiple income streams. We've got merch. That's right. Drip, Trickle, Flow, Flood t-shirts are officially here, and they're as comfy as they are conversation starting. Grab yours at the link in our show notes. All right, everybody. We are so excited today to have with us Greg Dayley. He is the founder of SeaBar, which is natural shampoo and conditioner bars that let you reduce your plastic usage and clean up the ocean. So how cool is that? I have personally used these products myself. They're amazing. So welcome, Greg. So nice to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it. I'm looking forward to it.
Hey, Greg.
Hey, Tony. How are you doing?
I'm doing great today. Thanks for asking. Good.
Greg, your story is so fascinating. Why don't we back it up to how you even had the idea to start this business? Because my understanding is you were not in the beauty business previously. Nor maybe was that even an expectation of yours to be.
Yeah, 0%. Like I studied genetics in college because I wanted to breed cows. So like the apple fell very far from the tree. Yeah. So I guess it was about 10 or 11 years ago now. I was working with my cousin on his Instagram marketing company, and he calls me and he's like, look at this Instagram page. It's growing really fast. And I look and I was like, dude, that's pictures of hair. Nobody gives a shit. And he's like, no, but look. And so we did. We watched it for a while. We're like, that's weird. This is when video was pretty new on Instagram. So probably like 2014-ish. And we were like, this is weird. They're just not even posting videos. And so we actually paid his neighbor to start posting videos of hair or find videos of hair on Instagram. There were very few of them. We paid him $1 a video. He went around, found them. We reposted them on this page, a couple pages, and they just blew up. Millions of followers. Through that, we met like all kinds of the top hairstylists in the world. Like I taught a lot of the big name hairstylists how to make videos for Instagram, specifically about hair. We ended up like filming educational classes with these hairstylists. Like we'd fly them in from all over, like Miami and London, and we'd meet them in LA and we'd film and we'd sell their classes online. And then COVID hit and everybody started putting their classes online for free, and it wasn't that fun anyway. And so kind of during that time, we were also working with a company that had been on Shark Tank. They had a handshake deal, but apparently almost all of those fall through. The only like shark that was north of like 30% close rate was Mark Cuban. His was like 60. I guess he just didn't care. But so anyway, we worked with them for a while, and I just got really fascinated with the product side and the ingredients and how that all worked. But one day I was standing in the shower and I was just like, I got a shipment of new products that we were testing, and I was just reading the back of every bottle, and it's like first ingredient water, first ingredient water, first ingredient water, all of it, first ingredient water. And I look at the shower head and I was like, this feels dumb. Like I'm using bottled water in my shower. And so I reached out to the chemist of like, what percent water are we talking here? He's like, oh, those are like 85. That one's 90. I was like, what the heck? Like, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. Like people are paying like Evian prices to wash their body or their hair. And so that's kind of where it came from. Then I was like, oh, how can I make a shampoo bar that doesn't suck? Because I liked the idea of shampoo bars a lot more than I liked them. Like I didn't like how they were gross in the shower. I thought they were really hard and didn't work very well. And the conditioner bars especially I didn't like. And so actually it was my sister's fault, kind of. I told her I was thinking about making shampoo bars and she's like, I wouldn't buy that. I was like, oh, that's a good start. And her reason was she didn't like how they got gross in the shower. And so I just finished a deodorant container and I was like, I dug it out of the recycling. I was like, what if I just shove a shampoo bar in here? And so I did that, and it was more convenient, worked better. But later I found out that they actually work better too, because we make the bars softer, so they work better. And so that's kind of how it came about. Our conditioner we won an award for from Expo West last year, which is kind of the biggest natural products trade show in the world.
Yeah, it's huge. Congratulations.
Thank you. And so, yeah, that's kind of how it all came about. Just kind of following um, my own pain points, I guess, down the rabbit hole. Just like,
And so, yeah, so you come from kind of rural Idaho
yep,
and probably weren't paying that much attention to hair. You get into to that world, and you're in pretty deep with that world.
I really, really was. Like, I knew all of like the top hairstylists in the world. I'd go to conferences and people would be like, "Oh, you," like they would find out what I did and be like, "Oh my God, you sent me this message way back in the," like other presenters, "You sent me this message way back in the day." And it like changed my career because I started making videos different. I'm like, all right.
Well, and to give people an idea, you had like 3 accounts, right? And correct me if I'm wrong, but it was something like 17 million subscribers across the 3 accounts. So like you would literally make people insta famous when you shared their videos.
Yeah, especially early on. Like
Yeah.
there was a time like the reason the pages got so big is because right after they introduced the algorithm, they went from chronological feed to the algorithmic feed. Our pages were already pretty big then, but we found out that the algorithm was super basic. If somebody liked your stuff, the algorithm would promote your stuff to all of their followers. They're like, okay, that's cool. We know a lot of people with really big pages. And so we would just like every evening we'd get on, post a video and like everybody's thing. And the pages were growing like 20,000, 50,000, 100,000 followers a day each. Like it was wild. And that went for like 6 months. They were just like exploding. And yeah, there were people that, you know, like I've got a friend down in Seattle. We're still friends. I taught her how to make videos for Instagram, and now her salon went from like just her really dinky, kind of a janky little salon. She was a very talented stylist, but it was above a Midas auto repair or like muffler shop, like on kind of in Burien on like a really rough corner. And people were coming from like, they were flying in to see her. There'd be like homeless people walking down the street, but they were flying in to see her. And she was charging like $600 to get people's hair done. And like, yeah, it was crazy, really
Well,
crazy.
so you go from that, and that's the digital world, and obviously timing. Let's be honest, timing can be really important in business, and in the Instagram world, your timing was really, really good. So you learned that world and did well with it, and saw that it was changing. And then obviously COVID had a big impact on the salon industry
Yeah.
during that period. So you say, okay, now I'm going to bring a product to market. What the heck's that like? I mean, that's a whole nother. It's one thing to say, okay, I wish this shampoo bar existed. It's another thing to fill up a empty deodorant canister with the shampoo, right? Okay, so maybe you can figure out how to make that product. It's a whole nother thing to brand it, market it, sell it, all of those pieces. You have multiple SKUs now. So why don't you talk about that a little bit? Just that process of bringing a product to market.
Yeah. I think that's my favorite part so far. That's my favorite thing I've done. And so I had, my first job out of college. I worked at this place that sold like $2,000 doorknobs. Um, and, when I was interviewing, the owner of the company had recently been bought by a small private equity group. They were super hands-on and involved. They invested in, they're from Chicago. They invested in small manufacturers in the Midwest. That was and he had bought the company maybe like 6 or 8 months before. And he came in and they'd already done like a bunch of rounds of interviews. It was just like, he was in town. He wanted to talk. And so he asked me my story and he asked me like, I don't even remember what he asked me, but I told him a story about it. And he's like, oh, you're going to be great. Selling is storytelling, done. And he got up and left. And it was like a really weird interaction. He he was a really good guy, but that was the first interaction, and it stuck with me that selling is storytelling. People don't buy products, they buy stories. And so when I came at SeaBar, I was like, okay, what story am I really telling? Like, I'm telling the story of silly waste. I'm telling the story of, plastic in the ocean. I'm telling these stories that I care about. And so that was the first thing, is you craft a story, and you craft an identity, and then you start working out the product. So you might have a product concept, but then you start fitting your product into the story and adding layers to the story. And for me, because I developed it myself, I had looked at having it just packaged and made by somebody else, but they all are set up to do one thing one way. And I was like, yeah, but I don't like any of this way. Um, and so I decided to just learn how to formulate it myself. And so what I did is I bought a bunch of ingredients. I found some. There's a lady up near Vancouver. She has a blog. It's the jankiest blog I've ever seen, but it's like full of the best information. And you pay like a couple bucks a month to be part of her blog and get to see everything. She's just giant nerd about products and ingredients and goes way in depth. And I just read everything she put out about shampoo and all that stuff. I was like, okay, I think I can figure this out. And I started mixing and matching, and I made 200, 300, 400 versions. I don't know how many. Of the shampoo, the spreadsheet I was tracking all of my iterations on went to like JQ or something like that, of iterations of it. So like, it's a lot of, I just made so many of them. I was like, okay, not quite. And my hair was the cleanest it will ever be at that point. I was like, I would hop in the shower like twice a day. I'd only wash half my head because I'd get too crazy washing it too many times. So that was kind of that part.
So that was the start, and everybody knows the story of, somebody comes up with something and they make the first round in their garage and they're selling it and that. But have you stayed totally, basically vertically integrated, that you're doing all of it? You're making the product, packaging it, shipping it, marketing it, all the things?
Yeah, we are. Part of it is, so my dad's kind of was in manufacturing my whole life. And it's kind of that's his thing. He's like a manufacturing guru, I guess. And he would just always say stuff like, companies who don't make their own products aren't even real companies. And like, that's the one line that's like stuck in my head. And I think companies who do make their own products are better for the consumer. They're better for their supply partners. They're better for their customers. They're just better all the way up and down, because they just have more control. They can be more in charge. They don't have to make sacrifices because somebody else is trying to maximize their profit along the way. And so I think it just gives me more flexibility to do weird stuff. It also gives me a lot more knowledge of my products if I had just had somebody else formulate it. So when I was at that company before, that had been on Shark Tank, founder had just gone to a co-packer and was like, this is what I want, formulate it. And they went back and forth and iterated, and she tested it and tried it. She had no idea what was in her product, not really. And in fact, they owned the formula. And so at a certain point, that relationship got strained. They were small, and they had been on Shark Tank and were selling a lot more than they could really handle. And they were expensive and all these things. And so basically she had to move to a new factory who I think they reformulated. They just reformulated it from the ingredient deck, and like the fragrance was a little different. It wasn't as rich and as nice. And like, there are all of these things that like the product lost. And some customers noticed, but a lot of them didn't. But like, yeah, I think manufacturing your own products gives you a lot of that. And it gives you a chance to make something unique. Because if you're just buying something off the shelf, like, sure, you might be able to mix a couple different ingredients together, but your product isn't going to be it's going to be 98% the same as everybody else's. Like every shampoo you've ever used probably comes from a co-packer. Somebody,
What does that mean for scale for you?
it definitely will provide some challenges. Luckily, our product is very simple to make. The equipment to make it is not expensive, and each one lasts a really long time. So we don't have a lot of problems. We have had a lot of problems with refills, scaling that up, but I think we just figured that out. I'm pretty excited. We've been pouring them in molds and then taking them out and putting them in boxes. And that's been a giant pain. I've been really reluctant to invest in more molds because I knew the process was terrible and wasn't scalable. And so I just have been biting the bullet and doing the most tedious things over and over. But I think we're 95% of the way to a solution on that. I'm pretty excited.
Nice.
At that point, we'll be able to scale our refills basically unlimitedly.
And how are you distributing these products now, Greg? Are you selling online, also in stores? Are you angling for the larger markets like a QVC? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah. My dream has always been to have an infomercial. In rural Idaho, we only got 2 channels, and one of them
Nice.
super heavy infomercial one. And I loved the OxyClean guy. I loved those commercials. I would watch them back to back sometimes when I was a kid. I don't know. Maybe I was just really bored, but I really loved them. And actually, in fact, Adam, I did a farmer's market a few years ago, and the guy who produced those OxyClean commercials, it was down in Seattle. He came by my booth and was like, "Oh, I like this stuff, blah, blah, blah." So we talked about it a little bit. I was definitely not ready to do a big infomercial at that point, but I would love to do an infomercial.
Could you imagine if you had if you had that guy somehow get involved? A hero.
Yeah, the OxyClean guy has passed, but
Yeah, didn't
it's great.
something
Oh, did he pass?
didn't something fall in his head out of an air he's on an airplane or something weird and something fell out of the luggage compartment?
I don't remember. I don't know.
It was a really random.
Oh, no.
Well, this is probably Google.
Well, yeah, we'll need to Google that after, but I feel your vision, Greg.
Yeah. So for short, we sell on Amazon, not a ton, but we do sell a decent amount on Amazon. It's not a priority. We charge more on Amazon because it's a pain to work with. My whole goal is to make, being a more sustainable product more convenient, because I think sustainable products in general, they ask people to make inconvenient things. They ask people to do inconvenient things in inconvenient ways for more money. And that's real not a good business model, if you ask me. So I'm trying to make something that's convenient. And for a lot of people, Amazon is their convenience. And there's a lot of people in the small artisan world, if you will, that are super anti-Amazon. And I don't love them, but some people do. A lot of people do. And I'm not going to tell somebody that you can't use a product. You have to be inconvenienced because of this. That's their decision to make. That's not mine.
Can you expand on your business model a little bit? Because you have, you can get on and just buy the product. You have a few different SKUs. You could talk about those if you want. But then your subscriptions that you have.
Yeah. So people come and they buy. It is a consumable product, so a lot of people do subscriptions. I have found our subscription we're going to need to redo how we do our subscriptions, because we find that it's a product that lasts way longer than people expect. And our biggest churn problem is people are yeah, I got 20 of these, because, they'll get on subscription every 3 months, but they'll last them every 6 months, or, it'll last them 6 months. And so there's ways to pause and do all that, but people don't do that. They're
But even with the so I guess, yeah, so you have the subscription, but even just explain how you buy the initial canister and then you can buy the refills.
yeah, so it's basically a deodorant container. It's one of the round ones. And that comes filled the first time and you use it. And then when you're done with it, instead of throwing it away, you just screw it back down to the bottom. And then refills just come in cardboard boxes. They're just a little cylinder of the stuff with a little hole in the middle. And you push it in and boom, you don't have to pretend your plastic bottle got recycled.
So I think that leads into your mission, right? This is a very mission driven company. Talk about, what you're trying to achieve both with, the sustainability of the product. You talked about the water a little bit. You just hinted at, pretend that your container got recycled, because I think nobody knows what happens after you put stuff in a recycle bin at this point. It's a bit of a mystery, or maybe you hope
Yeah.
you pretend it's a mystery, but you really know what's happening to it. So talk about that, kind of your mission around SeaBar and the product itself, and then the trash cleanup that you do.
Yeah. So before I got into the Instagram stuff, I was living in Hawaii and I got really into free diving. And what happened a couple times, but one time in particular really stuck with me. I found this sea turtle that had, I actually saw this plastic bag just jerking through the water, just really weird. I was like, how is that plastic bag floating like that? And I noticed it was like wrapped up in a tangle of fishing line, and the fishing line followed it along and it was hooked in the back flipper of the sea turtle. And so I swam up to it, cut it loose, and I was like, this is crazy. Like, why does this exist? Like, why are we using, this is a product that's been used for like 2 minutes, maybe. And it's kind of like, it would have killed the sea turtle, like in all likelihood, had I not happened to be there and cut it loose. And so that kind of, I'd never really thought about the problem before of like the plastic waste. This was like 2010-ish, 2012, somewhere in there. And I was like, this is just dumb. Like, I like going outside. I like seeing the natural world. It's a pretty incredible thing, but then you go places and it's destroyed by like dump sites or whatever. Everybody's seen it. Everybody's like, oh, that's dumb. And so I decided I was going to do something about it. I was just sitting in the water. I was like, I'm going to do something about this. And for a long time, like choosing paper over plastic at the grocery store was like the extent of what I did. And when I got in the hair care industry, I started just thinking about the number of bottles. I was like, we are shipping thousands of these bottles every day. And I've since found out like Americans use about 1.8 billion shampoo and conditioner bottles a year. And the stuff, like people already recycle very minimally in their houses, but people recycle about half the rate of their bathroom trash as they do the stuff that they use in their kitchen or elsewhere in their house. So the recycling rate for bathroom stuff is super low. And then almost nobody washes out their bottles. So they get like the rejection rate of plastic in recycling plants is crazy high. And so I was like, okay, so we're just selling bottled water in plastic jugs and it's killing the planet. And it's like, this isn't helping anybody. The only people it helps is the people who can make a $40 bottle of shampoo for 60 cents and sell it, because that is what it costs to make those big bottles of water. It's pretty cheap. And I know, Tony, you know how much like the retail price of those are. Like, it's just wild. And you're like, oh, this must be special. No, they have special stories and expensive.
Yeah. I mean, when we had the hair salons, it's funny. I got into the business thinking, okay, you make money by having people in the chairs and cutting their hair. Obviously, we talked about this when Lindsay was on. I didn't know anything about the hair industry when we got into it, but no, I mean, you want people getting their hair cut, but you also want them showing up and buying the products you're carrying. And this is another story for another day, but we went really deep into the different products we carried and the different research as far as like We actually went and toured a facility in Italy that we were carrying their product. And so, yeah, I mean, it's crazy the margin as a salon, what we
Yeah.
got, but then that's probably nothing compared to like what Target buys the stuff for, and then what, the manufacturer's making it and selling to Target for. So
Yeah. And it's a 3-step distribution system. So there's so many steps along the way. But, just to go in on that, like hairstylists don't make very much money from selling product, but hair salons, that's the bulk of their profit comes from the product sales. And so, um, yeah, anyway. Yeah. So it just kind of like, I had this idea, and the idea is like, okay, the most expensive ingredient in every single beauty product anybody has ever bought is the marketing. Like that is by far the most expensive ingredient. And so the idea was like, what if instead of spending all of this money on more marketing and telling, frankly, like mythical stories, you're like, oh, we found this rare tropical extract deep in the forests of Brazil. And if you extract it on the full moon, it makes your hair, grow 10 times faster. And they're just like these fake stories. And then you look at the ingredient deck and you're like, that's below the preservative. That's like that's like 0.5%. That's not in there. And so I was like, how do you tell a true story that motivates people to, builds loyalty, lowers buying resistance, makes people want to buy for reasons other than it just, I guess, leaning on altruism a little bit. But I also didn't want to, I knew that brands who rely 100% on altruism fail because everybody's altruism has a limit. And so I was like, it's got to be a really good product that, actually that does something. And so that was kind of the thesis. Like, how do you lower the selling cost of a product and take some of that money and add it, make it do something good for the world, I guess? Because I just think about the tax we're all unwittingly paying on nearly everything you buy, that Google, that Facebook, that, all of these media companies, they sit in the middle and they extract a huge toll tax on nearly everything you buy. And even if you don't buy it from an advertisement, they have to have the prices that high specifically because you have to pay to get new customers, and you can't charge old customers and new customers different prices unless you do refills. Then you can.
And do you, as part of this, I noticed on your site, you helped found the Clean Ocean Alliance. So tell us a little bit about that. What is that? And also, are you donating a portion of the sales to that, or how does that all work?
Yeah. So that's it's still basically an alliance of one.
It's okay. It all starts somewhere.
Yeah.
yeah, but yeah, talk about that in your trash cleanup that you've been.
Yeah. So we first started, I just pick up stuff around Bellingham, the Bay and stuff. Still do that. We do like volunteer stuff once a month. And but my sister used to live in the Philippines, and when I first started SeaBar, her old roommate's husband's brother-in-law or somebody just really random like that happened to see it and messaged me on Facebook. I'm not a big Facebook person, so I saw it like 6 weeks after he sent it. But he's like, I love what you're doing. This is super cool. Can I get involved? And I was like, heck yeah. I don't know if you don't know, the Philippines is probably the single largest contributor to ocean plastic pollution. Primarily like governmental corruption and a huge population of very poor people right next to the water who are like, do I choose between paying for a good trash disposal service or feeding my kids? I know a decision I would make every time. And so this isn't like a knock on that. It's just like a fact that they have a huge problem there. And so we set up a crew, we hired some people, and went out and cleaned up. It's about 30,000 pounds of trash over the course of a week, which is pretty crazy. Like the pictures are absolutely insane. And it was in an area, it was like this little triangle in between some, a seawall. And there's like just this little shallow area in the corner of the seawall. And it was probably like 40 yards by 20 yards. And then whatever the hypotenuse of that is. And they pulled out 30,000 pounds and it still looked like there was tons of trash there. It was crazy.
Yeah, that's nuts. I know when you think about walking along, you know, a beach in the United States, yeah, you'll see some trash. And obviously you want to pick that up, but the sheer amount, I've seen the pictures, and I mean it's kind of mind blowing. Like, it's not a sandy or a rocky beach; it's a plastic beach covered in garbage that has washed up. So yeah, it's pretty washed up, and I guess maybe also just dumped there. But yeah, it's really, really crazy. And then that all ends up,
Yeah, there's all kinds of knock-on effects.
Yeah.
It cascades down. And obviously picking up the trash along the oceans isn't really like a solution. It's a Band-Aid. The solution is the further you get upstream from it is where you solve the problem. And that's kind of what that's why I view SeaBar as like a two-pronged approach. It's like help people use less, clean up the mess we already made. And so obviously, like in terms of like problems with plastic in the world, shampoo bottles is so far down the list that it's like doesn't make the top 100. But it's a smallish problem that I could solve.
And it's going to be, I mean, just to solve most problems, it takes, attacking it from multiple sides. And this is a giant thing that's going to take all sorts of innovation and change and whatever else.
100%.
Okay. So you're obviously, a creative person who is able to problem solve and innovate. Someone wants to bring a product to market. What do they do? What's the first step? And then what kind of pitfalls are they looking for, especially financially, of how do you make this product become a reality? And then for it to stay a reality, it has to be financially solvent.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good question. So this is something I've learned a couple times the hard way, doing a little bit better every time, but test small. Like, you do not have to, like, the first batch of SeaBar's that I bought, I got like 300 blank applicators. Maybe it was 500 blank applicators. I found a guy down in Tequila who could screen print them. Drove down there, waited all day for him to screen print them, and then came back up. That was like $600 or something like that for that. And then the ingredients to fill them, I could buy as little as I wanted at a time practically. I think I spent another $500 on ingredients. And my biggest expense at the beginning was a mold to make them all in, because I had to do a custom mold, and because they had to fit perfectly in. I definitely did everything the hard way with SeaBar, because it's like nobody does nobody does refills. Nobody does shampoo in a bar and an applicator like that. Like, neither of them existed. So you can definitely make your life easier by doing things the way other people do them. So, but start really small. You do not need to invest in tens of thousands of dollars of inventory to start. Like, don't. It's a terrible idea. If like your product idea requires like custom molding, custom injection tool, things like that does require it, pre-sell it. Like, do a Kickstarter type campaign, prove demand before you spend a penny. Like, if you can't get people to pay for like half the cost of the mold or whatever before you even make it, like, you might not have it there. Like, so test the market. Like, figure out the smallest thing you can do to test it. And so, like, the first few shampoo bars I made, I just got old deodorant containers that I found, and I shoved shampoo bars I made in them. I didn't sell those, but I gave them to my sisters and myself and just like used them. I was like, okay, yeah, I like this. So that's the biggest thing is start really, really small. You don't have, you can do that before you come up with the brand. You can do that before you come up with anything. Like if you're coming at it from like a problem solution, which is kind of where you should start. Like, I see this problem. Here's my solution. Here's the story, how I'm going to sell it. And so I would say that that's kind of the 3 steps to it. So start really small. You don't need to spend a lot. Alibaba is an incredible resource. If you're like, it's incredible. You can go there, find somebody who makes something that's reasonably similar to what you're asking for and be like, hey, I got this idea. Here are the drawings that I have. They can be napkin drawings. They have engineers. They'll do it. And they're like, and you're like, I just want one. I want you to make one. And it'll be $300 or $400 to get it, depending on what it is. But they have to custom, whatever, it's $300 or $400. And you actually get a physical product and they're good quality. Like I've been messing with this idea for a camping product. Make cooking camp when you're camping easier. And I found a factory. I had to make something that I was thinking of. And it's great quality and it's a terrible design. My design was terrible. And I'm so glad that I'm in it $200 or $300 rather than 2,000 or 3,000 to get even a small opening order. Cause then you just have a garage full of junk.
So how do you get started? A lot of people have ideas, a lot of people, this and that, but how do you shed the excuses and
okay. You talk like the psychological, man, here's my problem. I'm a really good starter. I'm really good at starting things. So most of the things that stop people is fear. It's probably the number one thing. They're like, I don't know if this is going to work. And who cares if it works? Like, this is something that you think is cool enough that you want to exist. Like, if you're not willing to make one for yourself, you don't care about it enough. Like, don't do it. Like, if it's not something that you're like, but if it's just like, I don't know if I could start this because the business might fail, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? Like, make it for you. Make yourself the world's most expensive camping cooking apparatus. Like, cause you want it, and then use it and see if you like it. And then you sell it. Like I think too many people start from like, hey, I want this to make money rather than, hey, I want to solve this problem. And I think, honestly, in general, if we want to get philosophical, that's probably one of the biggest problems with our society at this moment is that too much commerce has gone from producing value to extracting value. And you used to be rewarded, and you still are rewarded for producing value, but because we've like separated money from reality in so many different ways, like there's so many businesses that exist. They're the lowest risk, they're the highest reward. Like the businesses that like don't produce anything and just suck value out, like they're the easiest way to make money, but it just like makes everything worse for everybody. And so like figure out a way to produce value for somebody. Start with yourself. And if you if you make something and you're like, okay, this is cool. Now let me figure out how much it costs to like actually make this stuff. And you need higher margins than you think you need. Your expenses are going to be higher everywhere. And so like, usually like the cost to manufacture it, your suggested retail price should probably be 4 or 5 times what that is. Just to like, it depends on your distribution model, but if you want to leave the door open for selling to retailers or selling to distributors, that's why you need such huge markups, because selling costs, like if I sell to a retailer, small retailers usually sell to it like a 50% discount. And then they make their 50%. That's a selling cost. So all this already, like selling to a retailer is 50% selling cost for you. If you want to sell to a distributor, it's usually like in the hair world, if you want to sell through like professional distribution to a salon, the distributor, you have to give the distributor 50% discount, who gives the salon a 50% discount. Like there's huge, huge chunks. And so, distribution through more traditional retail is usually closer to like 18 to 25%. It's a little bit less egregious. And it depends on your product. If you're selling a frozen product, it's like crazy expensive. So, you got to figure out your distribution costs and your selling costs. But like as a general rule of thumb, if you price out your product and you're like, this thing took me, the best I'm going to be able to do, even at scale, is making this for $10. You're like, is somebody really going to spend $40 or $50 for a shampoo bar? I don't think so. I wouldn't pay 40 or $50 for it. So then you, like, that's just a quick, like, if you look at the price of what you'd have to charge and like have to do a double take yourself, I don't know, maybe it's not there. Or the other solution to that is improve your story. Like improving your story is like the best way to get out of commodity situation. Like if you want to sell, like there's 99-cent bottles of shampoo. Like,
Yeah. So what's your story? What's your competition? What value are you adding?
yeah. And I wouldn't even, your competition matters a little bit. If somebody's got it like so locked down that you could never even compete. But in most things, it's just not true. Like if there's 100 versions of something out there, that just means people already want to buy it. Like creating like totally blue ocean products is way harder than creating a product that's like just a better mousetrap. People already know what a mousetrap is. Just like, this is a little bit better mousetrap. If you have to like educate people top to bottom on how it works, and for SeaBar, that's probably been our biggest challenge, is we change too many things. Because people know shampoo, obviously. A small portion understand shampoo bars. Nobody understood shampoo bar that comes in an applicator. Nobody. And so like, the more different you're trying to be, just the more explaining you're prepared to do.
So you've talked about Shark Tank a couple times because you were connected to other business, and you talked about, having an infomercial. Are you going to go on Shark Tank and have Lori make you an infomercial?
I applied a couple years ago. I talked to a producer actually. But it seems like they've shifted from like, they want companies doing millions of dollars a lot of the times now. It seems like they found that the really, really early startups were terrible investments, like huge failure rates. And so they're looking for brands a little bit further along, I think. I might try again. I haven't thought about it.
You should try again. You never know. I've had a lot of clients on Shark Tank, and I think one of the shifts was early on, they were getting a lot of small businesses who got smart to the fact that it doesn't really matter whether you get a deal or not. You're going to get all the exposure from being on the show. So they were attracting a lot of people who, like you said, right, they weren't maybe in a position where they necessarily even need the capital as much as some other businesses might. They're just there for the promotion and visibility aspect of it. So I think they're trying to add that layer so that they're ensuring that you're a more serious business and actually wanting to scale in a position where you could, which may be that revenue layer that they're looking for. But I don't know if it's that hard, if it has to be like, you must already be bringing in 2.5 million in order to be considered, right?
You're probably right. But yeah, maybe I should. I haven't revisited that seriously.
We got to get the infomercial dream. I mean,
this
this must happen. I love infomercials and I love your products. So I think more people definitely need to know about it. Well, Greg, you were a wealth of information today. You shared so much with us and the audience. So we're just very grateful because a lot of people want to know about how to take products to market. You obviously have a ton of knowledge about this. We may need to have you back again sometime to dig in even deeper, but we so appreciate everything that you've shared. And we'll make sure that we link to Greg's products so that you all can go ahead and check them out as well. And if you enjoyed this episode, please rate and review on your favorite podcast platform. And with that said, thanks everybody for joining us today on Drip Trickle Flow Flood. And thanks, Greg.
Yeah, thank you.